What's going on, everybody? I'm Cade Morehouse with Cade Side Press. Today I'm joined by Cody Gibson. Cody, how's it going?
Going good. Apologies for having to be on the road, but got about a 30-minute drive, so I figured I'd rather kill it with you than in silence. So I appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. How was training, man?
It was good. I hadn't been back to that gym, in the pit gym in Slow, since my fight. That's my main grappling gym. So I broke my nose in the fight, so it started gushing a little bit at practice, but it's all right.
Cody, we got some bad news and some good news. Some bad news is that you fought a hard fight that you worked hard for. You wanted to win so badly. It was a close fight. It was a great fight. And you came up short on the scorecards. The good news is you got the contract and you got 50K. What are your thoughts on that?
It was it just was weird, a weird night because I don't take losses very well, to be honest with you. Like I get really upset with myself, and it usually takes me like a solid week to get over it. And just kind of like let myself move on from it and try to learn from it. And I don't know, it's like a process, you know? And so obviously I lose the fight. I'm mad at myself. I'm thinking about the things I could have done differently. And then, to get the news that we won the fight night bonus was pretty cool. And then to hear Dana in the press conference after that, just kind of a roller coaster of emotions in one fell swoop there that evening. So obviously a good silver lining to a fight I like to get back.
Yeah, before I get into TUF and everything, you made your UFC debut a while back, and you actually fought Aljamain Sterling, and you went to decision with him, and then now you had a couple more fights after that, and then you got cut from the UFC, I believe. How did coming on TUF all come along? Like, what was your road like back to the UFC?
It was they tell you when they cut you from the UFC that, go win a few fights on the regional scene and we'll get you back in. That's what they told me, and I've heard a lot of people say that. So that's what I went and I did, and then the call just never came. And different, life happens. You have I had two surgeries in 2019 that put me on the shelf the entire year, and then COVID in 2020 and 2021. So just trying to be consistent in the cage wherever I could find a good fight was hard enough. And then, I just got fortunate with the fact that they were having my weight class and the team season. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there in the same boat I was in, got cut from the UFC. They're trying to claw their way back on the regional team, but I don't know. For me, it's like getting to the UFC. Take my collect my bag of cash and go home.
What was your time like on the show? What was the whole experience like?
Uh, Definitely a little bit more challenging than I probably anticipated. It was just, and it wasn't like the training or like having to live with a bunch of dudes or fight guys you're living with. None of that really I didn't seem to be bothered by that too much, but just being away from life, being away from your kids, your wife, your life, that was challenging. And so I was just happy when it ended. I was happy. I remember I said like something to the effect of, "I'm glad I did it, but I don't think I'd do it again." And it was definitely an awesome experience in a lot of ways, and taught me a lot about, I mean, I think you're just in an uncomfortable environment for the entire duration of the show, but for 6 weeks. Filming was about 4.5 weeks, but we were gone for 6 weeks. we were in a hotel for a couple weeks, or stuck in a hotel room. Um, but it just taught me about being in an uncomfortable environment and having to overcome that, you know? So a good experience overall.
What was your time like with Michael Chandler? Like, how much did you learn from him, and how important was it to you that you got on his team? You know, he seemed to be there for his team the entire show. What how important was that for you?
When I went into it, I didn't really think, that it was that important to be on, which I didn't really care what team I was on or anything like that. Um, and then, obviously, in retrospect, I'm glad I landed where I did. I knew that Kavanaugh and that Owen Rowdy guy were good coaches. So if I ended up on McGregor's team, even if I didn't really see eye to eye with McGregor, I knew I would probably be in good hands, because I do have respect for those guys. I think Kavanaugh in particular is a really good coach. Um, but yeah, to have like our actual head coach, and Michael Chandler, and just how much he invested into us, and the energy he has about him, and just the respect I have for him. So in retrospect of the whole experience, definitely, happy I landed where I did.
What was it like being around Connor? Like, just the whole show, because it did seem like, at certain points of the show he wasn't there.
Yeah, it just seemed like a publicity grab for him. All of his Proper 12 and the different companies. Uh, you know, Cryo is like some like pretty much like a Bengay cream. Uh, some protein company, some stout company. So to me, it was just like, oh, like it was pretty obvious to a lot of us once we got in the house and saw things that he was doing the show to promote these new brands, to try to elevate them in the same way that Proper 12 was elevated. Uh, yeah, he's an erratic guy. He's hard to read. I mean, I don't even know what life would be like if I had that much money, but I don't know, man. He didn't seem like a guy who's focused in and ready for a big comeback, like he's saying, where he's going to be dialed in. I'm sure he'll get more dialed in the more the clock ticks and the date is set or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. He's not really my cup of tea.
Now, when you were on the show, you hurt your knee, and after all the hard work and time that you spent away from your family, and then you come up with this injury. How much did it worry you about the injury? And did you ever believe that injury was going to stop you from getting in the cage?
I wasn't worried on my end. I wanted to fight, no matter what, but I was more worried because the UFC was making it seem like they weren't going to let me fight. So I didn't find out I was actually cleared to fight until about 2 or 3 days before the semifinals. Up until that point, I was told you're going to do physical therapy, you're going to do stem cell injection. If your knee responds decently to that, then we might clear you to fight. And so I was kind of, for about a week and a half, just kind of not. When you don't have control of the situation, it's pretty frustrating. I think it's something a lot of fighters could relate to. At least when you're in the cage, like you have some control over the outcome. But this wasn't a situation where I had any control, so it was a little bit challenging just trying to get through that, and not really being able to train. Ryan Bader actually kind of saved me. He all I could really do is ride the Aerodyne bike. So workouts where still like heart still good going into that semifinal fight, even though I hadn't really been able to do anything in a couple weeks, and it was because of him and on those assault bikes, on that assault bike.
What was your favorite fight on the show before we move off the Ultimate Fighter topic? What was your favorite fight on the show? And it could be any fight.
You mean like? Well, I mean it's hard because I didn't get to see a lot of the fights. Um, when I was actually in the house, I was always the last fight. I feel like no, the first time around I was the second fight. so I got to see the final two that night, but I didn't get to see the first one, which was Rowe knocking out Nate in like 8 seconds. And then none of the semifinals fights I got to see until after the fact, because I was in the back and they didn't have a TV for us, so all we would do is just hear about it, you know. But in retrospect, after watching all the fights, I liked Brad and Timmer's fight. I think was probably my favorite fight to watch.
Now, leading into this fight with Brad Katona for the finale, where did the problem start between you guys? What made you not, I don't want to say respect him, but what made you so irritated with him? Because you seemed like you had a little bit of irritation towards him.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't because he was a weird guy, because I got a lot of guys I train with that are weird guys, and I got some really good friends that are weird guys, and I'm a little bit of a weird guy, I'm sure, too. So that, I mean, it wasn't because he was a kind of, you know, nerdy, weird guy. That didn't bother me at all. It was just some of the actions he took that I just didn't agree with. And, you know, the editing of the show, you don't really get to see a lot, especially a lot of what happened in the house and the interactions between the guys. So, you know, I understand some people were like, I kind of seemed like an asshole to him, but it was just things he would do that I felt like were selfish. And it's one thing to be selfish in this sport, because I think you have to be to some degree, but I still think there's character, and if you're doing things that benefit yourself but hurt other people, I kind of feel like that goes beyond just being selfish. So, yeah, just some things that went on between us that I didn't really care for him, and to me, it showed his character. And so, yeah, I wasn't a big fan of his by the end of the whole thing.
Cody, did you watch the fight back?
Yeah, I watched it back a couple times.
So this is kind of hard, but if I say take yourself out of it, just watching the fight, how did you score the fight?
I scored the fight 2-1 for him. I know how they judge fights. Like, the number one criteria to a judge is damage. And so, even though you can make the argument that the first and second round, I outstruck him in the cost, like the strike count or whatever, for significant strikes. It wasn't by much. And the second round, he wobbled my leg. I don't really feel like I was rocked, but I mean, my leg definitely responded to the shot he landed by going limp for a second. And so I think based on damage, if that's the number one criteria, even if I outstruck, you know, landed a few more shots than he did, then you got to give him that round. And then the third round was going really well for me. I actually rocked him. And he came back tough. I mean, I might have won more of the round, but the part that he won, I feel like he won more significantly and did more damage. So I actually scored. I know some people are like, man, we thought you won that fight, but going into the decision, I wasn't confident that I won. I thought I lost 2-1, and he was going to get the decision. So yeah, you know, I kind of come to terms with that, and you know, how can I improve, and what are some things I can change and do differently to make sure that the next one I get a win.
Cody, let's step away from fighting for a second. You're a teacher, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you used to teach history, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? And now you're a PE teacher?
Yeah, I taught history for 8 years, and then, 7 years. And then last year, there was a PE job that opened up closer to home, because I was commuting like 45 minutes to go down to this high school. And so I got this job closer to home. And PE, I knew I've coached for a lot of years, coached wrestling for a lot of years, so I knew I could do it. And I hadn't worked with junior high kids. I was only working with like upperclassmen, the high school and the AP classes and stuff. So it's a very different job, but it's still rewarding. I get to see a big impact and it's a positive role model with kids. So especially boys, a lot of these guys need good male role models in their life. So I like interacting with them, and I feel like the junior high kids too, you know, they're like they're at that age where they're going to choose a direction. Sometimes by the time they're 16, 17, it's hard to get it. If they've chosen a path, it's hard to get them off that path. But at 12, 13, I feel like you got that pivotal moment where you might make or break them, you know?
Now, how hard is it to go to the gym and train, right? And be this fighter and then transition to like this family man, a father, and a teacher?
I don't know, you know, I just compartmentalize, I guess.
Do the
I'm
do the
different, I
kids
guess. Go
do the
ahead.
kids ever realize like who you are and like what you do, or how, do they ask about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think since this UFC stuff started back up, even before then, they knew I fought and they knew I was in the UFC at one time, but it wasn't like as mainstream on ESPN where you're getting a lot of like parents and stuff, you know, sending you emails and things like that. So uh, it's been a little different since the Ultimate Fighter show and then the finale. So a little bit more recognition for doing it. The kids are a little bit more wide eyed, but I'm not going to complain because the classroom management's been a little easier if I'm being honest.
Cody, I want to ask you one last topic we can get into. I want to know a little bit about your wrestling background. You started wrestling at a young age, correct?
Not too young. I was a freshman in high school when I started, but as soon as I found the sport, that was pretty much it. I stopped playing every sport and just wrestled year round from then on out.
That's what led you into your MMA career, correct?
Yep, yep. I used to get in a lot of fights as a kid and was always getting in trouble at school and stuff. And then finding wrestling helped me a lot. Kind of learn to stay focused on school and gave me a place to let out aggression. And so I really took to it, and I knew and it taught me a lot about hard work too. And then I found mixed martial arts when I was in college wrestling. And I would come home for the summertime. I'd train mixed martial arts and start taking fights, even though I didn't really know anything. So,
Cody, I got a couple more questions for you. These are some fun ones. I don't know if you
all
watch
right,
sports, but what are your favorite sports teams?
I'm a Oakland guy, so I'm a Las Vegas Raiders fan. Oakland A's.
Hey, we could be friends, Cody. I'm a Raider fan.
Oh, nice.
I'm a big Raider fan. That's my favorite. Yeah, anything Raiders, man.
Yeah, I'm a big Raiders fan. With them every year, even though you don't always agree with the decisions that are made, and sometimes yours seem hopeless, but you got to stay true to it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this year, man. But I say that every year. You gotta just be hopeful. If there's hope.
Yeah.
What's your favorite post fight meal?
Ooh, every time I come home after the fight, usually we have a barbecue with friends or family. Get some cigars, some whiskey, and you're in Arizona, so you might know of this, but in California, we eat tri-tip. It's a cut of meat.
Try to.
A lot of people around the country don't know about it, or they don't cut the meat that way. But Santa Maria tri-tip is what it's called. Santa Maria is not too far from me, so I get a tri-tip and put it on the Traeger, some baked beans, some macaroni salad. Every time, same meal.
What's your favorite submission?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably a Darce or an Anaconda if I can get a hold of your neck. I train with a bunch of wrestlers and like everybody's got really good choke defense, so I forget that I'm pretty good at it because most of the guys I train with are good at defending it. So I know like don't blow my arms out all the time, but then I'll go in with like different guys from gyms, like jiu-jitsu gyms or other MMA gyms, and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I could submit everybody with this Anaconda or this Darce choke. So I gotta remember that when I'm in the cage more.
What's your favorite hobby outside of fighting?
I don't have any hobbies outside of fighting. I wish
Okay,
I did.
what's
I wish I did, but I just don't have the time. Uh, Before I had kids, I was getting into backpacking. My brother's a big fisherman. I have a couple buddies who are big fishermen that do like sport kayak fishing. And so I was getting into backpacking and taking my little travel pole with me and catching trout out of streams and stuff like that. But man, then I had kids, so things changed.
so what's your favorite thing to do with your family then?
Oh man, my kids are both at that age where they're getting into sports, you know, so we're always at a softball game. My 3.5-year-old's about to start soccer or a gymnastics thing or basketball, and now my oldest is gonna be doing volleyball, so we're always busy with sports. My kids we're right by the beach over here, so there's all these little beach communities up and down the Central Coast, small little towns, you know, so we'll just pick a town every weekend or two and go exploring, go on little hikes, play on the beach, that kind of stuff.
Two more. What's your favorite thing about your job outside of fighting? Is it the fact that every day you wake up you get to go put smiles on kids' faces, or what's your favorite thing about going to work with kids every day?
I mean, if talk to most teachers, you know, it's like you're not getting into it to make $1 million. You got to get into it for the right reasons. And when you make it, I think sometimes you look at the world and you look at all the problems that exist and you're like, damn, dude, I can't fix them all, you know? And that could be like, you're like, I wish I could, but I can't fix all these problems. But I could help kids. You know, like I can do that, you know? I could like touch a life or two every year in a positive way. And that you think about a teacher who's been teaching for 30 years, even if it's just 2 kids a year, they change their trajectory, help them out significantly. Damn, that's like 60 some odd kids by the time you retire, you know, that's only 2 a year. You might do that to 5 kids a year, you know, who knows? So, I think about teachers I had in my life that helped me a lot, coaches I had in my life that helped me a lot. And so I just kept, you know, I think part of it's just paying it forward, you know, to the kids of this next generation.
Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, if the fight happens, give me your prediction. Give me round and how it happens, or give me the decision. Give me how the fight ends.
I think a prime Conor McGregor gives Mike problems. He's just too precise. His fluidity of his movement is just too good. A prime Conor McGregor against Michael Chandler would be a fight, but I don't know, man. I think he's going to be stiff. I don't think he has the same juice he used to have. I think all that size he's put on slows him down and slows what made Conor McGregor with some of that unorthodox but fluid movement. And because of that, I think Chandler goes out and he does what Chandler does. It's probably a dog fight. He probably takes some shots too, but I think he lands something clean. I think in the second or third round, he gets him out of there. That's my prediction.
Nice. Cody, any shout outs where the people can find you? The floor is yours for the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, you can follow me on the social media stuff. It's the Renegade 559, so I appreciate it. Yeah, that's it, man. Happy to be home. I took a week off to heal up my body and then hit the gym back this week pretty hard. So feeling like I'm out of shape. So back to square one. Here we go.
Cody, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you doing this interview, and best of luck to you in the future, and hope to talk to you soon.
Hey, man, good chatting with you. Thanks for driving home with me.
Thank you.